In this study, research will be done to whether the bicycle company Supersize Cycles, a bicycle company for overweight riders, should outsource their production of products or not. During recent years, outsourcing has become a widely used strategy for companies to improve their performances. Until recently, Supersize Cycles' core models were only made in the United States. This isn't profitable since the manufacturing cost per bike rise up to $1,250. However, they are able to offer an individualized customer service and they have the ability to make a perfect bike for every person. On the other hand, Supersize Cycles has the option to outsource their production to a manufacturer in Taiwan, where they could be paying $550 per fully assembled bike. The question is, does Supersize Cycles choose for quality and individualized customer service, or will they lower their prices and improve their market share by outsourcing their production to Taiwan? In this argument, I will arrive at the conclusion that the company Supersize Cycles should not outsource their entire production to Taiwan. The conclusion of this argument of keeping the production of Supersize Cycles in the United States is based on three premises. The first premise includes that outsourcing the production can decrease the returns in manufacturing performance. The second premise is about the fact that when the company produces its products offshore, it may incur the opportunity cost of not learning about changes. The third and last premise is that outsourcing can increase the levels of competition. The premises made to support the conclusion are based on literary review gathered from the database of the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. To find the theory that supports my conclusion, I looked through the database with the aid of the following keywords: outsourcing, offshore manufacturing, outsourcing disadvantages, outsourcing production, and the pros and cons of outsourcing. After reading a lot of articles and theory, I found two articles who explain the premises and support to argue the conclusion. The first one is called Outsourcing, Assessing the Risk and Benefits for Organizations, Sectors and Nation. This is a peer-reviewed article gathered from the ProQuest database and is published in 2014. The second article I found is called Outsourcing and its Implications for Market Success. This is also a peer-reviewed article gathered from the ProQuest database and this is published in 2011. Premise 1. The relationship between the outsourcing rate and the relative manufacturing performance is nonlinear convex, which means that when the outsourcing rate increases, the returns in the manufacturing rate decreases. Proven is that firms with a high level of outsourcing activity have lower levels of manufacturing performances. Reasons for this negative effect on outsourcing can be that companies are focusing too much on short-term benefits and a lack of formal decision-making processes like medium and long-term cost-benefits analysis. The second premise associates with the risk of over-outsourcing, which can lead to competitive disadvantages which can occur in the opportunity cost of a reduced ability to learn about, for example, technological changes. This can lead to a slower response to the constantly changing needs and wants of the environment. The final premise that supports the conclusion not to outsource is that outsourcing can increase the level of competition. One of the main reasons for companies to outsource their production is to lower their costs and thereby create a competitive advantage. A study by economists has researched the relationship between competition and outsourcing. This study argues that companies want to outsource more when there is a lot of competition. Competition leads through the fact that companies are constantly looking for ways to reduce costs which can be obtained through outsourcing. But according to the study, outsourcing can lead to an increase in levels of competition. The latter effect arises as outsourcing tends to remove the distinctiveness of a firm's product offerings and therefore reduce its product differentiation capability, because all competent firms rely on a similar set of suppliers for their inputs. So we argue that circumstances in a firm's environment and specifically the levels of competition the firm faces in its competitive environment matter for a firm's decisions on the level of outsourcing. However, there are a lot of articles that argue the fact that outsourcing the production is the best way to be successful as a company. The main reason for this argument is cost efficiency. Firms use outsourcing to reduce operating costs and reinvest resources in more competitive processes. An important source of cost reductions is the outsourcing firm's access to economies of scale and the unique expertise a large outsourcing vendor can deliver. Since these outsourcing contracts receivers typically serve many clients, they often achieve lower unit costs than can any single company. To counter this argument, I can reference to the third premise I made about the fact that outsourcing can increase levels of competition. The idea of outsourcing is not new in the business world anymore. So when a company decides to outsource their production, a lot of competitors will follow. The consequence of this action relates to the first premise I made about the fact that when the outsourcing rate increases, the level of manufacturing performance will decrease, which will have a bad effect on the product's differentiation. Thus, it is still very risky to outsource the entire production. In summary, I can conclude that the company's supersized cycles should keep the production of the bicycles within the United States because of the three premises that support my conclusion. The first one, outsourcing the production can decrease the returns in manufacturing performances. Second one, producing products offshore may incur the opportunity cost of not learning about changes. And the last one, outsourcing can increase the levels of competition.